Hello, hello. So, okay, we're going to be talking about co-wholesaling. So, obviously, you guys got a lot of active strategies and you understand wholesaling, but I'm going to kind of break down the difference between co-wholesaling and wholesaling and talk about why we're adding this as an additional strategy, okay? And how you can either get the whole deal with wholesaling, or sometimes you get a split deal with co-wholesaling, but you're always making revenue. So, I just kind of need you to remember, we don't just work for ourselves just to work. Okay, we don't go into business to create another job just to stay busy. We prevent the work for work mentality, meaning you got to identify the most specific things that you need to do and then just do that. Okay, no busy work, no, you stay on your throne. And so some of the things you'll outsource it smartly, intelligently, so that you can have those mini retirements throughout the year. Meaning throughout the year, for example, if you want to go to vacation for a couple of months or take a whole month off, you absolutely can, because all you'll need with some of the wholesaling stuff that I'm saying and the systems that are in place is Wi-Fi and a laptop. That's it. That's your business. And so that's kind of the reason that I had you read through that stuff in module 1 and module 2 about building a virtual corporation. Because yes, although real estate is a fixed commodity, obviously it's a physical, you can't move it, it's immovable. Your business is not, and where you do business is not immovable. Okay, so start to kind of get that, because we have our systems in place where we never have to worry about what's next. Okay, so you're going to think big so that you can ensure that the paydays come every day consistently. This is about consistent money, and then obviously the big payday is second. So you just want consistent paydays to kind of start, even if it's just the 2,500 and the 5,000, because we'll use that to snowball with what we're doing and some of the more advanced strategies that I'm going to teach you. So let's kind of get started with why we went go into co-wholesaling versus wholesaling, or vice versa, I should say. So what is wholesaling versus co-wholesaling? Okay, we're going to go over smart wholesaling. So my top seller sources and where to find them. Okay, I'm going to give you my top buyer sources and where and how to find them, and setting up your, you already have your company's entity set up. Okay, the disclaimer, once again, I'm not an attorney. This is not or a tax professional. This is not legal or tax advice. Okay, but I need you to put your blinders onto some of this, which means you got to kind of unsubscribe mentally and physically to some of the distractions and the subscriptions. You need to concentrate and have your one focused. You want to be committed to wholesaling, and you committed to do it when you purchased, into this program. And so kind of just stick with it and understand some of the concepts through until the end. I have 100% faith in this process and in this system, and many of the students are successfully implementing it. So when you run into resistance of any type or any obstacle, just let the faith of knowing that other people are doing it and you can do it too. I do it, you can do it too. Whenever you feel confusion or distraction setting in, come back to this and listen to it again, get clarity, remind yourself to keep it simple. There is there's nothing else. There's no reason to complicate it. I remember when I was starting out in the business, one of the things that I personally would do, I see lots and lots of people that I work with all the time, is they overcomplicate things and they complicate it, and there's really no reason for it. When you feel confusion, stop, take a breather, and contact support. Okay, it'll work for you. You just have to have the faith, and you have to understand the winning mindset. This is about women who win. We have an abundance mentality. Deals are infinite. And when I say infinite, I mean infinite. Through the system, the country is literally your oyster. You're going to go into different markets. Okay, you are not stuck in the market that you live in, or just the market that you have knowledge in. Or the market that you start in, that's just kind of just a start. The country is literally your oyster. Deals come to you in every market, day in and day out, by the boatloads. Most of what we're going to be doing is leveraging online resources. So again, you can put in Craigslist for any city for one of the things that I teach you. So there's more deals that you can ever imagine. And I'm telling you this because you have to have that in mind and keep that in mind. So when something does go wrong, or if it doesn't exactly work out the first time, you know to do it again, because you will get the results. So get rid of it, forget it, make learning your lesson, and move on to the next relationship and build your business if something happens, because buyers are infinite. Buyers are flooding into the market every single day, both domestic and international cash buyers. There are hundreds of deals, and buyers are in the market at all times. There is nothing to fear, nothing to lose when wholesaling houses like that, like this. So when we wholesale the smart way, as we're going to talk about a little bit later, you're only putting properties in a contract that your clients already want and that they told you that they want. You're going to get a deposit from them prior to even getting a house or get proof of their funds. Okay, so there's truly no risk when doing it this way. It's a smart way to do business. So get started now. And just get past that fear and get moving. So for every single step, once again, feel free to reach out if you need to, but you have the content here. So go back and rewind whenever you need clarity. Now, we spoke about this before in some of the earlier modules, but I need to just kind of do squash some of the preconceived beliefs that you have right now and what's possible for you. You need to look at this information objectively and have an open mind. If you have different beliefs, as if right now, do for yourself, look at everything objectively. The best way for you to consume and retain is to look at everything objectively. Okay, so everything happens in your mind first. So believe that you can flip these properties, believe that you can find buyers, believe that, because it's true. That seems to be a very hard thing, though, for people to do and for them to be able to digest, to know that they can be a national real estate investor, they can be a real estate entrepreneur. But I'm telling you, once you get into this business, you wonder why you ever thought it would be difficult. It's actually much easier and makes much more sense than restricting yourself to even just rental properties or something like that, or even to just one market. Okay. So your passion for it is going to have to remain strong. So, make sure that you're speaking positively about this and keeping your passion for it and reminding yourself kind of why you got started. Okay. So your integrity. Okay, this is going to be important too. So you have your passion, but your integrity. Okay, your excitement on the phone is going to help you with these, to cement these relationships, and they're necessary. Your integrity is going to need to be solid because you're going to be working on and building very important relationships with co-wholesalers, with buyers, and with sellers. So your integrity needs to be tight. You need to visualize your goals throughout the entire process, and continual personal growth is going to be important. Okay. So some of the best books out there, just so you know, kind of The Power of Now, The E-Myth Revised, Think and Grow Rich. But I want you to get How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Okay. This is very important. Like I said, as the other ones I mentioned, reason being, as a woman who wins, your mindset is all about relationship. This entire business is based on relationships. So you are not much more than a real estate matchmaker, an advertiser, a marketer. Have you seen the TV show Millionaire Matchmaker? That's kind of what you're doing. You're putting deals together and putting people together if you only have one side of the transaction. Okay. So How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is an absolute must. You need to read that book and understand it. So consider it a part of this program. So now, once again, if you've never done a deal before, that's not a problem. If you think you're lacking the confidence because you don't have the experience, then you just fake it till you make it. I promise you. You've already set some of the things up in place with your business, and to make sure that you are coming off as credible and you have a professional appearance, and your business is already on the right track and foundationally it's set up properly, because there are many people out there that have done the same thing. And it's pretty much an understatement. So you definitely can do it too. Here's your chance to kind of be successful and step into that. This is how successful self-made people are made. There are no multi-billionaire producer, out there that didn't first believe that they were capable of something before they actually achieved that something. Okay. Because it starts with your belief. It goes back to where you are and what we were talking about previously, your mindset. You really, truly do have to believe that you can do it, because once again, I'm showing you the principles and the steps throughout this course. So again, it starts with your belief. So, all right, wholesale fundamentals. So what is wholesaling? Well, wholesaling is simply putting a property under contract with a motivated seller and selling that contract to a cash buyer at a higher price than the contractual agreement. So, for example, if you got a property under contract to purchase from a seller for $60,000, and then you find a cash buyer who wants that for $70,000, and they pay the $70,000 because of the after repair value of the property is $100,000. So the $10,000 in the middle of that spread, remember the 60 and the 70, that's your profit. Okay. Basically, you just find a motivated seller, get the property under contract, find a buyer interested in paying more than you did and do one of the two things. Either sign the contract to your buyer for a fee, which is a simple one-page assignment contract, or you can do a simultaneous closing or double closing where you actually buy and sell the property in the same day with the buyer's cash. Okay, very simple. Or you may have to get transactional funding and use your own cash. Either way, that's kind of just hiding how much money you're getting, and you can do that pretty simply as well. And I talked to you about that in the previous video. So it's kind of the same thing. So the further below market value the price is with the seller, the more profitable it can be. So it's very important when negotiating with motivated sellers, obviously, to get the best deal that you can. And later, I'm going to tell you and show you a few little tactics to create even bigger spreads in the middle, even once you have a property under contract, okay? So the wholesaler uses no cash or credit whatsoever. Your value is bringing the seller the cash and, the cash and buyer the property. You do not at all have to be a real estate agent or a broker or have any license. Obviously, you have your business license to show that you're professionally doing this, because you're not representing anyone. Okay. Now, of course, you will need to speak to your attorney or whatever to make sure you're feeling legitimate about all of this, but do not represent anyone. And there's a way, that a disclaimer that I give you that lets them know you do not represent them. Okay. Now, wholesaling fundamentals. So 2 methods to close your wholesale deal. All right, let's go over this in more detail. The simultaneous closing, which is my preferred method when I'm doing, bigger deals and making over $10,000, because I don't like my buyer or my seller to see the fee that I'm making. And then now an assignment. An assignment is the easiest way to get paid, though. An assignment looks like this. You have the one-page contract, and it simply assigns your interest in a property over to your buyer. So visualize this for a moment if you are new to the business. You get a property on a contract with a motivated seller. You know the property is worth $100,000. You get a contract for $60,000. Then you market the contract and the property to a buyer who wants it for $70,000. Okay, now you're just marketing that it's $70,000 and it's worth $100,000. Those are just using some round numbers. Okay, great. Now what? Well, you get a one-page assignment contract that actually assigns your interest in the contract over to your buyer, which means it literally takes your name off the contract with the seller side and puts your buyer's name there. Okay. You take those contracts and you have them in hand, and you take them to the closing agency or to the closing attorney or the title company or whatever, escrow company, depending on what state you're in. And they do the work from there. They'll pull the title, make sure there's no liens on the properties, blah, 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 and get it closed. Now, a lot of people get super confused and nervous with that process, but all you need to worry about in the beginning, if you're doing your first wholesale deal, is to get the property under contract with a motivated seller. Then you need to get a contract with a cash buyer. And if you are going to assign that contract, get that assignment contract signed. Okay. I provided for that in the resource section, download sections of this module. Now, once again, the difference between doing a simultaneous closing and an assignment is, in a simultaneous closing, you are actually going to be closing, meaning you are going to close on the property, but you are going to use your buyer's funds, or you're going to use transactional fundings to know that that's where the money is coming from. Now, this, again, is completely legal in many states, but in some states, it may not be, using someone else's funds. So I actually just suggest that you use the transactional funding, okay? Not a big deal. And then you're borrowing the money for a short period of time. There's some transactional funders out there that, I give you in your resource. But for now, you're going to borrow, for this situation, just know that you're going to borrow some money if you have to do a simultaneous closing, but you can also just do an assignment fee and be done with it that way, especially if it's less than $10,000. Okay. Because again, you're going to sell the property. Even if you do transactional funding, you'll borrow the money for a short period of time, buy the property, and then sell the property back to your buyer. So it's all worked out before you do it. And I can walk you through some of this if needed, if you're in my mentorship program. But you get that here. And if you need to rewind that, please do. Because wholesaling through a simultaneous closing, you are the contractual buyer. Okay. 2 transactions take place when doing this, and that is the transaction between you buying the property from the seller, then you selling the property to your buyer. You can do this all in the same day, or you can wait a couple of days. It depends on the situation. But the transaction between you, the seller, and the wholesaler, the transaction between the wholesaler and the buyer is what happens. So simultaneous closings, the buyer doesn't know how much you make on the deal. in the the double close. Now, this can be very important because you don't always know the mentality of your cash buyer. Believe it or not, there are some people out there that don't like to see a wholesaler make money, okay, or what they believe is too much money, since the buyer is typically a guy who's going to fix and flip the property, and they're putting up all the money. So in their mind, they're putting up all the money and they're taking all the risks. Now, that's none of their business though. Okay. So do not fall into that trap. What you get on the property in the contract does not matter. What matters is that you are able to provide, okay? You're providing value. What they value is that you got this great property off market, or you brought a seller to their property that they didn't have one, a buyer for it. So the property that they obviously want is a property that they would have never found without you in wholesaling. So now if you have that property on contract for $5 and it's worth $100,000, guess what? You're going to have a phenomenal payday. That does not matter that you have it under contract for $5. That is not their business. But if you got it under contract for, $65,000 and you're going, and it's only $70,000, then you only get $5,000. So they don't care when it's a little bit of money. So you can't concern yourself if it's a lot of money. Now, I prefer all of my deals with the simultaneous closing or the double closing. And I get to a little bit more of a detail on that a bit later, but I'll tell you right now, it's because I like to keep everybody out of my deals. And the reason my closing attorney gets paid, he gets paid twice. So now in a simultaneous closing, you also stay in the seller position the entire time of the transaction. My title company or my title attorney prefers this method, since they can have my buyer sign an acknowledgement form stating that if my buyer is fully aware that we're using their money. So that's with a simultaneous closing. Okay, this is not using transactional funding. So I'm just talking about a simultaneous close where you're using the buyer's funds. And again, this is not legal in every state, so I'm just telling you both ways. But for the most part, just think double closing, not simultaneous closing. You can do a simultaneous close in Florida though. It's on the closing disclosures. And like I said, in many states, as long as they sign off allowing you to use their money to close both sides of the deal, is completely legal. Now, this is the most expensive closing method to doing deals. But like I said, I prefer the simultaneous or the double close. Now, if wholesaling a property through an assignment, you are not selling the house. You're selling the contract. You're selling the paper. The paper is the product, your equitable right to that house. Okay. So when you're using the assignment and you're just assigning or selling the contract, you're not worrying about this double close stuff. Okay. So let me kind of give you an example. So say if it's, $10,000, like in the example that we've been using. Now let's get some more clarification on what an assignment contract is going to look like. For example, again, property is worth $100,000 ARV. That's the after repair value. You offer a quick cash deal to the seller, maybe $70,000. When you make an offer to a motivated seller, you are going to make sure that this sale is contingent upon your partner's approval. Okay, this is very important. Listen to this part really closely. This is called an escape clause, and it's extremely important to make sure that you have this escape clause in every offer that you are making. Okay. Now, when you are doing your own wholesale deals and working with motivated sellers, you'll probably be making multiple offers a week, and you should be. Okay. We've been known to do over, 100 offers in a week sometimes, and that's okay. And you will do that as you grow your business. So for that, it's extremely important to have that escape clause in every single one of those offers. Okay. We're going to show you how to make bulk offers so you can actually do 20, 50, 100 offers a week if you need to a little bit later. And, so now we use a purchase and sale contract that we've provided. I've provided that for you. It's in your resources section. But when making offers, say through REO or through real estate agents, we recommend what's called using the state certified contract. So if you're dealing with a real estate agent, you're going to use their contract, not the one that I gave you. Okay. That's just a caveat. But what's more, an assignment, back to my assignment example. If you find a cash buyer, okay, and you will, for $80,000, just use this for $80,000 and the property is $70,000. You can just use the assignment contract to assign all of your interest in that property over to your buyer. Once that assignment is signed by your buyer, you no longer have any rights to that contract. You've sold that contract to your cash buyer for a fee. You take that contract and you send it to your closing agent and your closing attorney and wait for any questions that they may have. Do not let that next process confuse you or demotivate you. It does not you know, it's perfect. They will help you. Once again, just concentrate on getting a contract from a motivated seller, getting a contract on a cash buyer, and getting that assignment over to the title company. When you have questions, I'm here to help, but just concentrate on those 3 steps. The rest will just happen. Once it's done, you literally pick up your check or have it wired. Now, having it wired is a lot of fun because, like I said, it's great to just have money show up in your bank account. That you received, you know, wire of X from your bank. You're going to love it. Now, remember, you are in the marketing and relationship business. So this is all about relationships and marketing. So I'm telling you right now, without relationships, you are going to make this business very, very difficult. That's why one of the reasons why you set up your business in that very strategic way and you start telling everyone what you do and start branding yourself and your business, okay? Because deals will come to you as you tell people about your business, okay? So talk to as many people as you can, ask them questions, be a resource to them, be friends with the seller, make them want to sell their property to you, make them feel comfortable. Again, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That is the book. Although it has nothing, you know, absolutely zero to do with real estate in particular, it has everything to do with real estate. Get a motivated seller to trust and like you, and you will get the contract every time. You will see much more success than the guy who is implementing the same investment strategies. But if you are the one that has the relationship and, let's say, the expertise, and you're very professional, you'll be the one getting the property, regardless of your credibility, your background, your degrees, your experiences, whatever. It's about relationships and being a friendly person. Now that you know traditional wholesaling is, let me talk to you about co-wholesaling, okay? Now, what is co-wholesaling? Co-wholesaling simplifies it so that you only have to implement one side of the transaction. Now, this is where it gets fun for us. And this is what I said, you know, with women who win in one of our multiple streams of revenue in our business, because sometimes you do the whole wholesale thing, and then sometimes you just do the co-wholesaling part. Okay, so let's talk about strategy 1. There's 2 strategies. Strategy 1 is you contract the property and another investor brings the buyer to the table. Strategy 2, an investor has a property under contract and you bring the buyer, which, you know, is all about the marketing agreement. So in a transaction like this, when a fellow wholesaler has gone out and done all of the work and got the property under contract from a motivated seller, and you happen to have a cash buyer, because we focus on cash buyers, this, you know, we'll dig into this a little bit later, how you do that, but you're going to focus on cash buyers. But in this type of relationship, you just bring your cash buyer to a fellow wholesaler's property, and you're going to need what's called the marketing agreement. Again, that is provided to you. And you can also go one step further and get what's called a non-circumvent contract. And we can get into that a little bit later as well. But with a non-circumvent is where the wholesaler is in essence just promising that he will not go around you and steal your buyer from you. That's why I tell you about dealing with high-end people and not dealing with unscrupulous people. But remember, co-wholesaling is going to be about abundance mentality. So don't really get into that and attract unscrupulous people to you. Think positive, think abundance, and you will attract those same people to you. If you are like minds, attract like minds. Okay. So now when you're dealing with the typical 50, profit spread, it's a 50-50 split with co-wholesaling. So if the selling wholesaler has the property under contract for $50,000 and your buyer has agreed to buy that property for $60,000, that's a $10,000 spread, and that's $5,000 for each of you. Okay. So 50-50 split. Now let me introduce you to wholesaling for the savvy women. Okay. This is savvy wholesaling. Now this is wholesaling properties without marketing for motivated sellers. It's without spending thousands on mail campaigns. It's without negotiating with sellers. It's without putting, the escrow deposit money down, driving through neighborhoods. And especially it's not without, it excludes putting out, bandit signs at 2 a.m. For all of you experienced people out there, you already know what I'm talking about. Okay. So it's also without ever having to own a property, without ever worrying about the most difficult thing in this business, which is finding deals, okay? So if you see it this way, you will never have to worry about that again. And that's the beautiful thing. You just need to get excited about that, okay? You are also doing all of this without working your butt off in tons of stress, okay? This is what we do. This is a savvy way to do it. So here's what you need to know. we work for our buyers. You hear me all the time saying, I have real estate investors that I'm working with. I have already found buyers that want to invest in real estate, and you can do the same. And this is a revenue stream for you, okay? Because you do your own deals, and then you are also helping others with their deals and creating fees for yourself that way, okay? So here's what you need to know. Again, we work for our buyers, and our buyers love it for us. We leverage other people's inventory because this is when you're bringing the buyers, other people's inventory, and it's very important. We're dumbing down the whole process so we don't spend a dime on all of the marketing for properties. We make consistent money. You outsource and you live the lifestyle that you got into real estate for. Okay, this is what you wanted to be in real estate for in the first place. So it's minimum work for maximum effort. So we locate our cash buyers first. We found out exactly what their perfect investment property looks like. Now, remember, I've already showed you how to find motivated sellers. Now I'm talking about the motivated buyers, okay? And so that we can put two different streams of revenue together, okay? We find out exactly, so when you're working with your cash buyers, find out exactly what their perfect investment property looks like, okay? You literally ask them that question in your cash buyer questionnaire provided to you in the download section. Okay, we need to know what that looks like, the location, year, build, construction type, the amount of repairs needed, and everything. Get that vision for the perfect property for them. The very house that they would buy over and over and over again. That means the exact neighborhood, maybe even the exact street, if possible, what it looks like, how it smells, how big is it, the condition, what's the amount of repairs, how much money do they spend, how long do they do their rehabs for? And what we are doing by getting that detailed is letting them know that you are out looking for the perfect property for them. By asking them these questions, you are going a step further than anyone else has for them. Okay, we want to know and envision just the absolute ideal property. Okay, have them so detailed that they're actually getting excited about doing them. Let them know that you are the best out there and that you will help them find this property for them, and you will find it for them. Remember, you are working for these guys. This is how savvy women and savvy investors do it. You then go shop for your buyer and look for the property for them. You'll find exactly what they're wanting using their own resources. Then make them commit by asking them straight up. Don't mess around with this part. This is very important. Once you've brought them into this process, we've talked about the perfect property. Say, listen, I'm going to use my own resources, my time, and my efforts to find you this property. If and when I get this property, will you commit and purchase this property within 7 days? Get them to say the word yes. Then go to work and shop for your buyers. Once again, being a savvy investor, a real estate entrepreneur, the buyers are your meat and potatoes. This is a viable stream of income that you want coming in consistently, and it's super easy to do. Okay, they're lucky for you to come into their life and now focus on them and get them what they want and increase their personal wealth. You are helping them reach their real estate goals. Even though, this is savvy wholesaling, it focuses on finding buyers and then leveraging other people's inventory, which is other, let's still go over my top motivated sources, my top sources for finding motivated sellers, that is. Let me go over that. Okay, so my top sources for motivated sellers are, of course, the 3 Ds. You already know that: death, disaster, divorce. So the probate and some of my areas that I tell you about, you already got that. But listen, this is life. Those things happen to people. These 3 things: death, disaster, divorce, whatever. They happen all day, every day, 24 hours. And these are the people that you can help. And the circumstances, they need your help. Okay, this can help anybody. And in these situations, you're actually going to be in a position to help. Okay, so let's talk about, probate, death, the first D, which is inheritance. So this is a phenomenal source of leads. It's one of my best sources out there. And, and how to get the list, you're going to need to you can go to I've already given you kind of training on that. So just kind of go through that. Or you can just buy a list through usleadlist.com. usleadlist.com is one of the ones. And then you also have in your resources, I believe in module 1 or 2, some other companies that you can buy lists from if you so choose to, or you can go directly to the county courthouse. Now let's talk about the probate list. So now it's, you get a call, from your target, let's say, in Phoenix. You're going to call them and email them, ask them for their probate list in Phoenix. Now, they only sell the list to 2 people at a time, the US lead list people, and the list only gets released every other quarter. So check them out, see what's available. That's just US lead list. That's, they're not the only probate inheritance list provider. You can also do a Google search for probate real estate list lead and find a list there. Same thing, disaster with storms, earthquake, natural disasters. That's the second D. It's a great opportunity, okay? Because it creates lots of opportunities for people, especially for investors out there doing renovations, wholesalers, fix and flips throughout the entire north, region. When the Hurricane Sandy hit, there was a ton of opportunities that opened up. And these opportunities happened because the properties got damaged so badly, the current property owners didn't know what to do. It was too much, both physically, emotionally dealing with that property. And so a lot of times they walk away from them. And so you will kind of watch the news to see what disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes, things like that, fires. We can go through so much. I won't go on it in detail, but start to think of disasters and, how how you can help. Okay. So therefore, putting more stress on insurance companies is what happens with some of these. And you're actually such a relief. Okay. To when you come in and step some of this, because the private sector can't actually handle all of this. The government can't handle all of this. The private sector has to come in, is what I'm saying. Sorry. The government can't handle all of this. The public sector can't handle all of this. They need private investors to fix disasters. So be a resource. Another thing you could do with house fires is you can, let's talk about this. So even local stuff that happens, like house fires. Now, to get houses that recently caught on fire, you call your local fire department and ask for the list. Okay, that's it. Get the list of the recent firehouses. It's public information, and nearly every single city and municipality has it. That's it. Those are your disasters. So disaster can be something as simple as water damage property. Like I said, there's just so many things: fires, water damage, earthquakes, hurricanes. Insurance companies are a great resource. So make sure you're giving out your business cards to insurance agents and insurance claims adjusters and things like that. You want to develop relationships with them as well. Okay. Divorce. Divorce is the last one, obviously, and we talk about bankruptcy and all those other things, but same thing. You can divorce is a great way to call a divorce attorney in your region. You can do this by a quick Google search and then reach out to them, let them know that you buy properties for cash and you'd like to establish a mutually beneficial relationship with them. Properties that they refer when sellers need to sell, and you'll be the professional real estate expert. So in exchange for them sending you leads, offer your services to them as a professional real estate expert. Okay. If they ever need a testimonial or a case as a real estate to come and help, then offer your time. But trust me, this will make them extremely grateful and happy a lot of times, and push them over the hump. Okay. If they're not interested, they're just not interested. It's not a big deal. Let them know that you'll be more than happy to assist. You send them a letter, keep them referred, and maybe just follow up with them maybe in a couple of months if they really are not interested and they gave you like a go away type of thing. But attorneys like to be able to offer their services to their clients. So most attorneys, I don't have an issue, and I have a lot of relationships with them, but it does take a little bit of time to develop those relationships. But most people never even try. And when I say a long time, I'm not saying time. It doesn't take a long time. It just, most people don't do it, and they'll send one letter and they'll never send another one. So send 2 or 3 letters to the attorney and make sure that they have your cards and that they're a referral source for you. Absentee owners. Now, this is another great source. It used to be. I don't really love absentee owners. I feel like this is a lot of grunt work, so I'm not going to get into it, but I'll just tell you quickly, absentee owners is a source of deals, okay? And they're nationwide. Absentee owners are people who own a property but don't necessarily live in it. Okay. So again, an example would be property looks distressed, in Dallas, and the owner lives in Phoenix. Okay. That's an absentee owner. Another indication of an absentee owner is simply just looking at the mailing address and then the property address. That's it. These properties can become a burden. And I know many people who concentrate on this solely as their business, and this is their niche. But one thing why I'm going to say just not totally the niche that I recommend for starting out is because they're not always motivated. And there's a lot more sellers that are more motivated than absentee owners. Just because they are absentee does not make them motivated to sell. Okay. So let's be savvy. But we ourselves, I've done some phenomenal absentee owner campaigns and gotten, 20 wholesale deals in like a 3 to 6 month period. So I'm not saying you won't do this. I'm just saying it's probably not where you want to start, because I know a lot of people teach that to start with absentee owners, and it's a kind of a crowded market and it's a lot of grunt work, and you don't need that. You can actually do a lot of other easier things, get your money going, and then add that to your business, add to multiply. Okay. But absentee owners are great because a lot of times it's tenant issues and things like that. But instead of going after just absentee owners, you can actually focus on landlords and landlords that have to do that had to do evictions or Section 8 landlords. So now going through a list provider is one of the easiest ways to get a list for anything that you're targeting. Okay, for foreclosures, absentee owners, probate, divorce, bankruptcy, credit model list, like credit score dropped, anything. Okay. They simply do all the work for you. Then you get the list and you send your direct mail campaign to them. And when you get into the exact mail campaign that you'll use later, we'll talk about, yellow letters. Now there's another way to do it. That's cheaper because yes, the list does cost money. But if you want to do absolutely free, but it's time consuming, you can do what's called driving for dollars. And if your subject property is where you live, then you simply do this. Drive up and down the street of a very desirable investor-friendly neighborhood where investors are currently doing fix and flips, and or a neighborhood where there are lots and lots of rentals because there are obviously lots and lots of landlords in that area. So what you do is drive up and down the streets with a notepad and a pen. You look at any dilapidated properties that look completely abandoned. Again, not a soul inside. Some indications of absentee owners, of course, are, tall grass, and they're effectively, so absentee property owned that would be a property that's obviously vacant. And the way to tell is stacked up newspapers in the front door, grass that's, knee high, boarded up windows, spray paint. These type of indications can be strong indicators of whether or not you have a potential absentee owner situation. So what you want to do is mark that property address down after you've done, again, I'm not recommending this for everyone, but I'm just going through it. So after you've done driving the neighborhood throughout the day, go on public records, go on Google, your local county's property appraiser's website. Okay, that's a great resource, local county property appraisal website. All right, so if you're like in Dallas, you do Dallas County Appraiser Office, or, Orlando, Orange County Public Property Appraiser Office, same thing, Maricopa County, whatever county you're in. Use that website to type in each interest that you've written down. If the property owner is located out of state or somewhere else, you have that right there in front of you, and that's your absentee owner lead. Okay, this could potentially be a great source, but again, it's very niched, and the property because you've seen it, so that helps you a lot. And now you can outsource a lot of this. You really can. You can actually hire someone to drive up and down the streets for you for a very cheap amount of money, believe it or not. And then you can outsource the looking up of these properties to a virtual assistant on some of the sources that I'll go over you later, very, very cheap, to oversee virtual assistants, even in the Philippines or Bangladesh. Or you can take it upon yourself and do it yourself. But I highly do not recommend it because what we're going to talk, and we'll talk about that later, what you'll be doing. But I do recommend kind of outsourcing some of this stuff. But that is generally how you can do absentee owners. It's a great source for motivated sellers. So that's kind of like the driving for dollars method. But let's just go over overview one more time. So the three sources, once again, locating absentee owners, just using that as an example, is searching through your county public records. Is just do a Google search for your state county property appraisal office. Most counties' website and functionality vary, but many have an option where you can pull a list of owners where the primary and mailing address is different than the subject property's address. Okay, then you contact the sellers directly. Now, some people don't like this. This is kind of cold calling. This is why this is not necessarily one that I recommend for my mentoring students, but depending on where you are and how much time you are, this is good. So I'm not saying don't do it. So with the list, but buying the list, with these lists and using those sources of motivated sellers, we just identify where you want to get motivated sellers from and how you're going to contact them. So here's how you do it. This is the most effective way in the industry. Now, it's a bit controversial in the fact that it seems, but seems is the key word. So let's be personable and let's call them inquiries from concerned people. But the goal is to get the phone ringing when you are trying to do your own wholesale deals and working with motivated sellers. You are going to send them what's called a yellow mail campaign. Okay. Now, right in front of you, I give an example of the yellow letter that's down below. And yes, it simply says, dear blah, blah, blah. My name is, Noelle from blah, blah, blah home buyers. And I'm interested in buying your home at 123 blank street. Please call me or see me at my website. Please call. Thank you, Noelle. Now, this is a yellow letter, yellow piece of paper, obviously, and it looks handwritten. Okay, the example that I give you, you do want handwritten in red ink. There are a few ways about doing that. Once again, to stay low budget, you can do this all on your own, or you can simply write out this mail template on a yellow piece of paper with red ink, then write "Dear," leave it blank, and then you write the rest of the message in. Okay, you then bring this somewhere like Staples or FedEx office, and then you make a bunch of identical copies, or you can take a bunch of yellow paper, upload it into your inkjet printer, you know, your one at your house, and you can make your own. Now, I don't really do them at my home because printer ink for your own personal computer is usually pretty expensive, and it's a lot cheaper to just go to your Staples or your Office Max and stuff, but whatever. Then the next step to make the copies, like I said, you make a bunch of copies, and you just then hardwire the name of the subject person. You just handwrite it. Sorry, just handwrite the name of the person in using a red pen. You can then take the envelopes, and this is very critical, very important. When you send these out, you send out invitation style envelopes, typically a manila envelope. Invitation style looks like a typical invitational card. Actually, you want square over rectangle if possible, so it looks like an invitation. It's totally okay if you use rectangle though. You then put what's called a live stamp on it. So use a real stamp, which means it's just a regular stamp that you get from the post office. That's envelope. Then the envelope that's addressed, you handwrite on the envelope, handwritten with red ink. Now, once again, this seems to be very time consuming, much more time consuming than just say ordering a batch of postcards. But let me tell you, the response rate by doing this is 15 to 20%. That is non-existent in the direct mail campaign industry. Something, you know, compared to like a postcard, your typical postcard is like a 1 to 3% response rate. So you can see the difference, time versus money. You don't have to do as many yellow letters to achieve the same results that you would with a postcard that you just mailed out. So yes, it took you more time, but you're going to get a higher conversion rate. So it's worth it to you. Okay. Then option number 2 for these yellow letters is, once again, contacting the U.S. lead list or buying a direct list, asking them to do the yellow letter campaign for you. Now, they can actually pull the list of, say, absentee owners or whatever for a fee, of course, and then they can actually do the yellow letters for you and send them out for you. This is the smartest way to go about it because you're outsourcing it. But if budget is an issue or money is an issue, then doing it yourself in the beginning after you got your first deal, then you can dedicate 15%. To have someone else do this for you, but dedicate 15% immediately to putting out another yellow campaign letter. So once you do one, you must do it again. Okay. So this is all about consistency. Now I want to reiterate, that's what I'm teaching you. You know, how to wholesale. So let me just reiterate, this is what I'm teaching you, how to wholesale your own properties, but the smart, savvy way, and the savvy way that I'm going to go to and more so in the next audio is you're going to bypass this. But I just want you to know how to do wholesale properties and wholesaling so you understand it. And so consider this your formal education about all of wholesaling. You have 2 videos, you're understanding the whole process so that you can realize you can just do one side of it. Okay. Another source of motivated sellers, REOs, foreclosures, HUDs. Again, great. I've done lots of them, but at the same time, that market is a little oversaturated right now. And target properties, you know, you would target properties that have been on the market for 90 or more days if you are going after some of that. But trust me, you will find better deals and less competition and less bidding wars on the older properties. But the price is probably usually off if it's been sitting for too long. Okay. So we won't really get into all of making offers through real estate agents. I could kind of give you a long-winded thing and making and sending out a bunch of offers, but I won't go over that right now because it's really not important. You have enough to get started in what I told you about finding that size. So you know how to find deals. You just need to do it this way because you're creating value for your cash buyers. All right. So that's what we want to talk about. Okay. So let me kind of just reiterate. If you're making blast offers, okay, that's a numbers game where you're just offering, you know, REO agents or in the MLS. That's a whole technique. And you want to, of course, be making offers that are like 20% lower than what the asking price is. I recommend at a minimum 12% on REOs. And that's going to, so let me give you an example. For example, if the list price is $100,000 it would allow you to send your offer at 50 or 60 or 70% at list price, which means it automatically generate your contract for 70,000. Okay, so that's what you would want to do. Very, very important, very cool. Because you want to also make sure that you have enough in there to minus out the repairs. Okay, so the repair cost. All right. Okay. So, again, so not hard to find your own deals to flip to your own buyers. And I'm not against it at all. As a matter of fact, it's fine. That's wholesaling. But I want to get back to co-wholesaling and completely bypass everything that I kind of just talked to you about in regards to motivated sellers. But once again, you do need to know this and everything that we just talked about, because you should know how to wholesale your own properties, because that is a stream of revenue, and make it a part of your business, but it should not be your focus, okay? Because other people's inventory and doing some co-wholesaling with other people's inventory is just amazing. It actually really frees you up and changes your life. And when you're on vacation but still making money, you'll rely on this versus the full wholesaling, okay? So other wholesalers, you know, might do. So the other wholesalers you want to JV with all of the time. They do all the marketing, all of the seller negotiations for you. They do all of the deal analyzing, getting the appraisal, the contractor codes. All of that is done for you with co-wholesaling if you're just finding the buyer. And that's why you want to do it this way. So in module 2, that I'm going to part 2 or part 3 of this, actually this audio, I am going to talk to you and teach you how to learn how to find your first target market. Then we'll go over some strategies for tapping into other people's inventory using, you know, wholesalers. And then my top buyer sources are landlords, retail buyers, rehab, fix and flip buyers. Okay. And then at the bottom of the list are like some hedge fund type people. So let's talk about your landlord buyers really quick. Focus on these leads with a laser beam, because landlord buyers are phenomenal, okay? These relationships are with the buyers are your main focus. You already know that. So in this business, you should be eating, sleeping, and breathing, thinking nonstop about your buyer leads. When you are building the systems, you are all about the buyers. That is who you are going to work for. That's who you represent. A landlord, you know, it's 2 sources. You need to focus on these people with a laser beam. Typically, these buyers are like repeat clients, and they're going to afford to pay more than the fix and flip investor. The reason being is the fix and flip guys, they need a margin, okay, to make the money, to make the profit. Your landlords are just looking for a good return on investment. They're just looking for a good ROI. In many cases in these markets, since landlords are just looking to get additional properties for the inventory, they're an awesome source for you. Okay. All right. Retail cash buyers. Some of the best buyers you have on your list, retail prices, they're using huge cash. There's lots and lots of them. Retail cash buyers are hitting the market daily. Now, here's what's beautiful about targeting what I call retail cash buyers. Hardly anyone targets these leads. All of the other wholesalers and investors are fighting for investor buyers, the fix and flip buyers, and of course, also your landlord buyers. But these retail cash buyers are insanely profitable buyers to work with. Let's get to these a little more in detail. They're simply a standard buyer looking for a good deal in today's market. Cash comes from a variety of sources. They may be using cash from their self-directed IRAs, 401ks, for example. They may be getting from, you know, their pension. They're getting it from settlements. They're getting it from savings and lawsuits, all different types of chunks of cash that they want to use to put into real estate and because this is where they want to invest. So these people are actually not very hard to find. Okay. But your fix and flip short-term investor buyers, aka your rehabbers, they're a great source of cash buyers, but they need more equity per deal. And so the number that I give you with the 70%, your max cash offer, those only fit your fix and flippers. I'm giving you a new savvier way where you don't even have that much of a market, and you can still sell those deals to some other types of investors, those retail cash buyers. Okay. And they may also be great repeat clients that you have, okay? So you're creating almost like a joint venture group with them. And it's tougher to get deals these days, especially when focusing on foreclosures, REOs, and HUDs. But when sending mail campaigns and dealing with motivated sellers, you are going to find some extremely dilapidated, extremely in need of repair homes that you are going to get from, well below current market value. this is when your fix and flip short-term investor buyer is going to really fall into play, and they will be willing to take on that project, work the extra work because they're very loyal and they have large amounts of business that can be done with them. All right. So you only kind of need a few of these people to build that relationship and to kind of get you going. And these are usually working people that want to invest in real estate or acquire some rental properties. They're very interested in the business. They just don't necessarily want to be a real estate entrepreneur. They just want some investment properties, or they want to add to their portfolio. All right. So this is what I'm telling you, and as to kind of start to think about and start to write down who some of those people might be and how you then can help them and start to put together that retail buyers list so that you have an outlet for that. Okay. And so here's your action list, and you got to remember, you have to take action. All right. So of course you've already joined your local real estate, your RIA group. Do this immediately. Do a Google search if you are not part of it and join different groups. But you already are connected. If you're not connected, please join the Women in Wealth Network Real Estate Investor Association. That is mine. And we have lots of active women real estate investors that are buying deals, and we do buy wholesale deals, and we do co-wholesaling deals as well. So things will snowball once you join and once you get started. Again, read How to Win Friends and Influence People. I recommend reading it once a month. Personally, I've read it 5 times. Decide if you're going to focus solely on wholesaling or co-wholesaling, but I feel like you should add both to your business. All right. So make sure you download all of the resources, schedule study time. There's another one and another module essentially to this part, because this one went a little bit longer, and I'm going to break this up because I'm going to give you some more detail. All right. On some little bit more specific. So hopefully you kind of wrote down, you kind of understand. And I want to end with this very, very timely quote that really just recaps everything that we just talked about. And it was an introduction to wholesaling and co-wholesaling. And it's about a ship. A ship is safe in a harbor, but that's not what ships are for. Okay. Listen, you got to reach out. You got to grow. If you're playing it safe, you're not doing it. That's not what you're here for. You're not here for what you are just intended for. You are here to go out into the world and do these things. You have to take action, and you can't be afraid. This is not scary stuff. This is not illegal. You don't have to be embarrassed or feel scared about any of this. Just please take action. Okay. Because you just listen to this is not going to do the trick. Don't just listen and take notes. Go do. You're going to listen to it, but pause and take action on these things. All right. So listen to the next part of this, because I'm going to go over again. It's going to be a little bit longer, but listen to the second part of this audio and re-listen to some of this if you need to, but start to think about how you're going to be adding co-wholesaling to your business.